In a small town, tucked away from the hustle and bustle of the larger cities, lived Kamala Harper, a bright, ambitious young woman who seemed to have everything going for her. At just 20 years old, Kamala was a beloved figure in her community. Beautiful, intelligent, and driven, she had dreams of making a mark in the world. She was known for her generous spirit, always ready to lend a hand to anyone in need, whether it was helping neighbors with groceries or volunteering at the local shelter. But on the morning of June 12th, Kamala Harper's name would become synonymous with a tragic mystery that would forever alter the lives of those who knew her. Kamala had been feeling off for the past few days. She complained of dizziness, nausea, and a general sense of fatigue. It seemed like a common illness, and to those around her, it was nothing out of the ordinary. But when Kamala didn't show up for work at the local cafe on that fateful Monday, her coworkers grew concerned. Later that afternoon, Kamala was found lifeless in her bedroom. There was no sign of a struggle, no obvious cause of death. It was as if her life had been quietly extinguished in her sleep. The cause initially seemed like a tragic accident, food poisoning. But something didn't sit right with Detective Emily Grant, who was assigned to the case. Kamala was careful about what she ate. She didn't order takeout or eat at any questionable restaurants. She made all her meals from scratch, often sharing recipes with friends and family. Could something so mundane, so accidental, really explain the sudden loss of someone so full of life? As the investigation unfolded, the autopsy report revealed something chilling. Kamala's cause of death wasn't food poisoning at all. She had been poisoned, but not by a random source. The toxin was specifically chosen: potassium cyanide. This wasn't a case of bad sushi or expired chicken. It was deliberate. Detective Grant dug deeper into Kamala's life. Everyone who knew her spoke highly of her. The hardworking waitress, the kind-hearted friend, the diligent student with dreams of becoming a writer. But as the investigation continued, cracks began to appear in her perfect image. Kamala had been more than just a pretty face in a small town. Beneath her warm smile and generous nature, there were signs of something darker. Her relationships, especially with her boyfriend, Jason, had been rocky in the weeks leading up to her death. Jason and Kamala had been dating for nearly 2 years, and though they were inseparable, whispers had begun to circulate. Some said Jason had become controlling, often showing up unannounced at her workplace or home. Others recalled heated arguments in the local park. Kamala had brushed off the rumors, but to those who paid attention, the warning signs were there. The night before her death, Kamala had received a message from Jason that seemed out of character. It was brief: "I'm sorry, I love you, come over." But she never replied. Did this message indicate a moment of guilt? A confession? As Emily Grant continued to investigate, she discovered that Jason had been seen purchasing a large quantity of chemicals from a local store just a few days before Kamala's death. No one had questioned the purchase at the time. It seemed harmless, a simple order for the renovations he was making at his apartment. But in hindsight, it now seemed like the perfect cover for what was really going on. Jason was brought in for questioning. At first, he maintained his innocence, insisting that his relationship with Kamala was stable, even happy. But the more Emily pressed him, the more his story began to unravel. The inconsistencies in his timeline were glaring. The desperate apology in his message, was it a cry for help? Or was it a manipulative tactic to cover up something far worse? Finally, after hours of questioning, Jason cracked. The truth came out. Jason had been in debt, deep, crushing debt. He had been borrowing money from unsavory people, making promises he couldn't keep. Kamala, though generous and kind, had no idea about the extent of his financial troubles. When Kamala threatened to end the relationship after learning about Jason's lies and his mounting debts, Jason panicked. He couldn't lose her, not just because he loved her, but because he needed her money. The idea of being exposed terrified him. Jason had resorted to poisoning Kamala in an attempt to silence her, and to make it look like an accident. He thought he could control the narrative, make everyone believe it was just food poisoning. After all, who would suspect a boyfriend? Kamala's death devastated the town. Friends, family, and the entire community struggled to understand how someone who seemed so full of promise, so full of life, could be taken so cruelly. The loss was felt deeply, and the questions lingered. Why would someone do this to her? How could someone so close, someone she loved, turn on her so brutally? The shockwaves from Kamala's death were felt far beyond the small town. It wasn't just a loss. It was a betrayal that no one had seen coming. The quiet town, known for its friendly faces and peaceful streets, would never be the same again. Jason was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. The town began to heal, but the scars would last. Kamala Harper's name would forever be tied to a mystery, one that no one could have predicted. The story of a bright young woman, full of hope and potential, who was taken from this world by someone she trusted. As for Kamala's family and friends, they would remember her not just as the victim of a tragic crime, but as the compassionate, driven young woman she had been. The pain of losing her would never go away, but her legacy, the impact she had on those around her, would live on forever. Kamala's story serves as a stark reminder. In even the most close-knit communities, secrets can lurk in the shadows, waiting to emerge when we least expect it. The ones we trust the most can sometimes be the ones who hurt us the most. Thank you for listening.